The galactic Concord chamber hummed with tension, its vast dome glinting with the soft light of countless stars projected overhead. Delegates from dozens of species, each more alien than the next, filled the rows of crystalline seats. Their voices melded into a cacophony of alien languages, debates echoing across the chamber. At the center stood Admiral Xar, his scaly form towering, his yellow eyes gleaming with cold resolve. "Earth," he began, his deep voice silencing the crowd. "A planet of chaos, teetering on the brink of self-destruction. They expand recklessly, ignoring boundaries, sowing discord wherever they go. We must act now. We must neutralize the threat." His words rippled through the room, triggering a wave of murmurs. Holographic projections filled the chamber, displaying scenes of human activity, industrial sprawl, military exercises, spaceships leaving Earth's orbit. The visuals painted a picture of unchecked growth, framed intentionally as a menace. Admiral Xar continued, his tone sharpening. "They lack unity, lack discipline. Yet their chaotic nature hides potential, a potential that, if left unchecked, could destabilize the entire galactic order. Preemptive action is the only logical choice." In the gallery, Ambassador Helena Cross crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. She watched the holograms with a faint smirk, knowing they only scratched the surface of Earth's complexities. Next to her, a human age shifted uncomfortably, whispering, "This isn't looking good." Cross whispered back, "Wait for it." A quiet voice pierced the rising tension. "Neutralize the threat?" The words hung in the air, silencing the murmurs. All eyes turned to Delegate Trickvarks, a Valen of slight build, his translucent frills trembling with suppressed incredulity. He rose slowly, his smooth, pale blue skin almost glowing under the chamber's light. "Have you all lost your minds?" he bellowed, his voice cracking at the edges. "Invade Earth? You're proposing we engage with a species that thrives on chaos? Do you wish to end us all?" The chamber erupted into a mix of confusion and indignation. Xar's lip curled, his voice dripping with disdain. "Delegate Trickvarks, your dramatics are unwarranted. Humanity is dangerous precisely because they are undisciplined. We must strike before they evolve further." Trickvark snapped back, his tone sharp and unyielding. "Undisciplined? They are improvisers. You mistake their lack of structure for weakness, but let me tell you, Admiral, chaos is their greatest weapon." The room fell into a stunned silence. Trickvark stepped forward, his frills stiff with determination. "Humans adapt, innovate, and thrive under conditions that would break any other species. You attack them, and they won't crumble. They'll learn, and then they'll fight back with weapons you cannot predict." A flicker of curiosity crossed the faces of several delegates. One leaned toward another, whispering, "Is this true? Do they truly thrive on chaos?" Xar sneered. "Adaptation is irrelevant against superior technology." Trickvarks's laugh was sharp, almost hysterical. "Oh, Admiral, you truly underestimate them. Have you reviewed their history? These creatures turned sticks and stones into an arsenal that conquered their own planet. They faced catastrophes of their own making, wars, plagues, environmental collapse, and each time, they came out stronger. Give them our technology, and you're not conquering them, you're arming them." The chamber buzzed with renewed murmurs. Trickvarks's voice rose, cutting through the noise. "You see these humans as primitive, but I see them for what they are, survivors. Innovators. Give them an enemy, and they'll unite against it. Invading Earth won't break them, it will make them unstoppable." In the gallery, Cross allowed herself the faintest smile. Trickvarks had taken the bait. She leaned back as the Valen delegate unwittingly became humanity's staunchest defender. "Do you think they will submit?" Trickvarks pressed on, his words now laced with urgency. "No. They will resist, and when they do, they'll take what they learned from us and turn it into something even we cannot comprehend. Their ingenuity is not a fluke. It's their defining trait. This is a species that, in just a few centuries, went from rudimentary flight to breaching the stars. Tell me, Admiral, what will they achieve with another century?" Xar's claws curled against the podium, his irritation visible. Hyperbole, nothing more. Their infighting will destroy them long before they pose a real threat. Trickvarks's laugh this time was bitter. You think their infighting is a weakness? It's training. Constant competition. Every argument, every conflict, these are opportunities for them to refine their strategies. You would be uniting them against a common enemy, us. A stunned silence followed, broken only by the faint hum of the holograms. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others exchanged uneasy glances. Xar's confidence wavered, though he quickly masked it with a cold glare. Trickvarks exhaled, his voice softening but losing none of its conviction. Invading Earth is not just reckless. It is suicidal. They are chaos incarnate, Admiral. And chaos is the one thing your rigid, disciplined forces cannot endure. They thrive on chaos, Trickvarks repeated, his frills flaring with agitation. Let me make this abundantly clear. Humans are not like any species you've encountered before. They are a paradox, a species of contradictions. They are unpredictable, irrational, and terrifyingly ingenious. He gestured toward the holographic display, which shifted to show Earth's history in rapid flashes. Battles, scientific breakthroughs, and cultural explosions flickered in dizzying sequence. Look at this! They waged wars over territory, over ideology, even over the most trivial of grievances. And yet, somehow, these conflicts fueled their progress. They discovered fire, created weapons, built empires, tore them down, and then rebuilt better ones. Each time they failed, they learned. A delegate from the Shavuk cluster leaned forward, their multi-eyed face narrowing. You speak of resilience, but all I see is barbarism. Trickvark smirked, a rare display of Valen humor. Barbarism? Oh, certainly. But this so-called barbarism is why they survived a planet that seemed determined to kill them. Earth itself is a hostile environment. Its weather is volatile, its terrain unforgiving. Predators once hunted their ancestors, yet humans adapted. They didn't just survive, they thrived. He pointed to an image of a vast, arid desert, humans trekking across it with little more than makeshift tools. They found ways to endure the impossible. They built cities in deserts, harnessed the wind in barren wastelands, and turned frozen tundras into habitable zones. And when the land couldn't provide for them, they turned to the stars. Another hologram shimmered to life, showcasing humans' achievements in space. Rockets blazing upward, astronauts floating weightlessly, and planetary probes exploring alien worlds. Trickvarks continued, his voice rising with intensity. This is a species that left their home world before they even solved their internal divisions. They send machines to other planets while still struggling with something as basic as global unity. Imagine what they could achieve if they ever truly worked together. The chamber murmured with unease. A Hickson delegate with iridescent wings raised a clawed hand. You claim their adaptability is unique. Many species here have endured hardships and overcome them. Trickvarks shook his head. Not like humans. You see, it's not just their physical survival, it's their cultural resilience. They weaponize ideas as effectively as they weaponize tools. Their art, their stories, their songs, they're more than entertainment. They're how humans connect, how they inspire one another to achieve the impossible. The hologram shifted again, this time displaying Earth's cultural exports, films, music, and viral internet trends. A clip of humans performing an elaborate flash mob in a crowded city square played, followed by a video of a makeshift musical performance in the middle of a war zone. Do you see this? Trickvarks exclaimed. This is their true strength. Their ability to unite, even briefly, through shared experience. They turn moments of despair into acts of defiance. They find humor in tragedy, hope in hopelessness. And they spread these ideas far and wide, faster than we can comprehend. Several delegates flinched as the hologram switched to a popular Earth meme, a looping, ridiculous dance performed by people of all ages and backgrounds. Trickvarks gestured toward it, almost in disbelief. This may look absurd, but it's a weapon. Not in the traditional sense, but in the way it spreads. It infiltrates minds, crosses barriers of language and species, and plants itself in the subconscious. It's infectious. Entire fleets in my sector have been distracted for days by these memes. There were stifled chuckles from some of the delegates, but others shifted nervously. A delegate from the Galther system whispered, "Could this be true? Could their culture be dangerous?" "Oh, it's more than dangerous," Trickvark said, his tone grim. "It's irresistible. Their media infiltrates our networks, their ideas seep into our societies. They are already conquering us without firing a single shot. And we're willingly letting them." A silence fell over the chamber. Even Admiral Xar, who had been glaring daggers at Trickvark, seemed momentarily lost for words. Trickvark seized the moment to press further. "They are not constrained by logic the way we are. Where we see limits, they see challenges. Where we follow protocol, they break rules to achieve their goals. Take their so-called impossible feats. Landing on the moon, splitting the atom, creating machines that think, all accomplished not because they followed the rules, but because they ignored them." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. "And then there's their resilience, not just physical, but emotional. They recover from devastation that would cripple other species. They endure loss, rebuild, and somehow emerge stronger." The hologram shifted once more, showing scenes of humans responding to disasters, communities banding together after hurricanes, individuals risking their lives for others in burning buildings, and aid workers delivering supplies in war zones. "This," Trickvark said quietly, "is what makes them dangerous. They don't just survive hardship. They turn it into fuel. Invading them wouldn't break their spirit, it would ignite it. They would rise from the ashes of your invasion stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever." The delegates exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, a reptilian from the Zarin League, muttered, "Perhaps their chaos is more calculated than we thought." Trickvark nodded, his frills relaxing slightly. "Exactly. They may seem disorganized, but underneath the surface is a terrifying adaptability. They thrive under pressure, innovate under threat, and unite against common enemies. If we become that enemy, we'll face the full force of their ingenuity. And I assure you, none of us would survive it." Admiral Xar slammed his clawed hand onto the console, his yellow eyes narrowing with controlled fury. "Delegate Trickvark, your hyperbolic fantasies are unbecoming of this assembly. You weave tales of chaos and ingenuity, but you ignore a critical truth: humans are a divided species. They cannot even agree amongst themselves, let alone mount a coordinated defense against a superior force. Their infighting will be their undoing, not their strength." Trickvark's expression did not waver. He straightened, his voice calm but sharp. "Admiral, you misunderstand the nature of their division. You see weakness where there is, in fact, a furnace of innovation. Humans argue, yes. They clash, they compete. But it's through this constant conflict that their ideas are tested, refined, and ultimately perfected. Their divisions force them to adapt at an unprecedented rate." The chamber grew quieter as the delegates leaned in, intrigued despite themselves. Trickvark gestured to the holographic console, which began displaying images of Earth's technological advancements. Factories churned out machines, laboratories hummed with experiments, and battlefields showed soldiers using unconventional tactics. Every invention, every breakthrough, every leap forward has been born from conflict with one another, with their environment, or with the impossible. Their disagreements don't paralyze them. They fuel them. And if you were to invade, Admiral, you would not face a fractured world. You would face a united one. The hologram shifted to show moments in Earth's history where humanity had come together in times of crisis. Trickvark continued, his tone heavy with warning. "When faced with a common enemy, humans put aside their differences. During wars, during natural disasters, even during invasions. They band together, pooling their resources and their ingenuity. You think their disunity is an advantage for us? It's the very reason we should fear them." Admiral Xar's lip curled in disdain. "You paint them as idealists. But tell me, Delegate, where is your proof that their so-called unity could withstand an invasion of galactic proportions? Their history is nothing but cycles of destruction. Trickvarks's eyes gleamed, and his voice grew sharper. Exactly. And each time they rebuild, they improve. Their ability to recover is unparalleled. You would destroy a city, and they would construct a fortress in its place. You would cripple their fleets, and they would engineer faster, deadlier ships. Every blow you strike would only teach them how to strike back harder. Several delegates exchanged uneasy glances. A quiet hum filled the chamber as murmurs rippled through the crowd. Trickvarks pressed on, his momentum building. Humans are not just fighters, they are opportunists. They will exploit every weakness, every oversight. Do you think your fleets are untouchable? They will hack your systems, learn your technology, and use it against you. They are masters of improvisation, capable of turning the simplest tools into devastating weapons. The hologram displayed footage of human guerrilla warfare tactics, ambushes, makeshift explosives, and unconventional strategies. A ripple of discomfort spread through the room as the implications sank in. Trickvarks let the silence linger before continuing. And then there's their most dangerous weapon of all, their imagination. They don't just think outside the box, they destroy the box entirely. When faced with the impossible, they create solutions that defy logic. This isn't speculation, Admiral. It's fact. They've done it time and time again. The hologram now showed human advancements in medicine, engineering, and space exploration. Images of prosthetics, autonomous drones, and spacecraft capable of interstellar travel filled the chamber. Trickvarks turned to address the assembly as a whole. Human creativity is not bound by rules. They invent what they need, when they need it, often with limited resources and under immense pressure. They've turned failures into triumphs, disasters into opportunities. And if you push them into a corner, they will innovate their way out, at your expense. Admiral Xares' frustration was palpable. He leaned forward, his voice a low growl. Delegate Trickvarks, your argument rests on conjecture and overestimation. They may be clever, but cleverness alone cannot match the overwhelming might of the Galactic Concord. They lack the discipline, the resources, and the organization to resist us. Trickvarks shook his head, his tone almost pitying. Admiral, you still fail to understand. It's not about discipline. It's about adaptability. You could have the largest fleet, the most advanced technology, and the most disciplined army, and it would still mean nothing. Humans do not fight fair. They fight smart. They exploit chaos, and they thrive in it. Your superiority would be irrelevant the moment you face their ingenuity. He paused, allowing his words to settle. The chamber was silent now, the weight of his argument pressing down on every delegate. Trickvarks gestured to the holographic console one last time. Let me show you what you're truly up against. The hologram displayed scenes of human resilience, rebuilding efforts after disasters, resourceful survival in extreme conditions, and triumphs in impossible situations. Trickvarks's voice softened, but his conviction remained unshaken. This is not a species that crumbles under pressure. They are not easily intimidated. They will fight, they will adapt, and they will overcome. Invading Earth would not be a conquest, it would be the beginning of your undoing. The chamber buzzed with hushed voices, the unease spreading like wildfire. Even those who had supported Xares' proposal began to reconsider, their confidence shaken by Trickvarks's words. Xares' claws twitched, his composure fraying as he realized the tide was turning against him. Trickvarks stepped back, his voice now a solemn warning. You think you can control them, but the truth is you cannot. Humanity cannot be subdued, only provoked. And if you provoke them, Admiral, you will not survive the consequences. The chamber was silent, the weight of Trickvarks's words hanging over the assembly like a storm cloud. Delegates shifted in their seats, their unease palpable. Admiral Xares' frustration was evident, his claws drumming an uneven rhythm on the console as he struggled to regain control of the narrative. Trickvarks turned back to the assembly, his expression grave. You've heard the arguments. You've seen the evidence. And yet some of you still cling to the belief that humanity can be conquered with brute force. Let me offer you one final perspective, a glimpse into the consequences of such an action. The hologram shifted, showing Earth in the aftermath of hypothetical destruction. Bombed-out cities, scorched landscapes, and shattered infrastructure filled the display. It was a bleak image, but Trickvark's voice cut through it with chilling precision. Imagine for a moment that your fleets succeed in subduing Earth. You crush their defenses, destroy their infrastructure, and occupy their cities. What happens next? Do you think they will surrender? That they will submit to your rule? You could kill millions, destroy their homes, and strip their resources, but you will never break their spirit. The hologram flickered, showing underground bunkers, hidden resistance fighters, and makeshift laboratories. Humans worked tirelessly, their faces etched with determination. Trickvark's voice rose with emphasis. Instead of ruling them, you would create a permanent rebellion. Humans do not give up. They would retreat into the shadows, regroup, and strike back when you least expect it. They would use every tactic, every strategy, every ounce of their ingenuity to undermine you. Occupying Earth would not be a victory. It would be the beginning of an unending war. Several delegates leaned back in their seats, their expressions grim. The realization of the scale and persistence of human resistance was sinking in. Trickvark gestured toward the hologram again, which now displayed humans working side by side with their so-called domesticated animals. And let us not forget their allies. What species tames apex predators and turns them into loyal companions? Their dogs alone would disrupt your forces. They are trained to protect, to hunt, and to fight. And they would do so without hesitation, without fear. They are not mere pets, they are soldiers in their own right. A nervous laugh rippled through the chamber, but it quickly died under Trickvark's unyielding stare. And if you think that's amusing, imagine their technology in their hands once they've studied yours. Humans reverse engineer everything they encounter. Your weapons, your ships, your very systems, they would learn to use them, improve them, and eventually surpass them. What you call conquest, they would call opportunity. Admiral Xar finally snapped. Enough of this, he roared, rising from his seat. Your fear-mongering is unbecoming of this council, Trickvark. These are primitive creatures, unworthy of the pedestal you placed them on. They are a nuisance, nothing more. Trickvark faced Xar without flinching, his voice colder than before. You think I fear them? No, Admiral. I respect them. And that respect comes from understanding their nature. You dismiss them as primitive, but that arrogance will be your undoing. Humanity has survived and thrived against odds that would annihilate most species. They are not to be underestimated. The chamber grew tense once more, the delegates watching the standoff between the two. Xar snarled, his tone venomous. You would have us cower before them? Abandon action out of fear? Trickvark shook his head, his frills trembling with suppressed frustration. I would have you act with wisdom, not recklessness. Invading Earth is not a show of strength, it is a gamble with stakes you cannot afford to lose. If you wish to provoke the most unpredictable species in the galaxy, do so at your own peril. But I, for one, will not be complicit in such madness. He turned to address the assembly as a whole, his voice firm and resolute. We are the Galactic Concord, a union built on reason and foresight. We do not wage wars out of hubris. We do not invite chaos into our midst. Humanity is a force of nature, one that cannot be controlled. The wisest course of action is not to provoke them, but to coexist with them. The silence that followed was deafening. Delegates exchanged glances, some nodding in reluctant agreement, others still unsure. Xar's fury simmered, but he said nothing, recognizing the shift in the room's atmosphere. Finally, the vote was called. One by one, the delegates cast their decisions. The holographic display tallied the results in real time. Trickvark stood motionless, his gaze fixed on the numbers. When the final vote was displayed, the result was clear: the invasion proposal had been defeated. The chamber erupted into subdued chatter. Some delegates sighed in relief, others muttered in frustration. Trickvark allowed himself a small breath of satisfaction, though his expression remained somber. He turned to leave the podium, but a voice stopped him. Ambassador Helena Cross stepped forward, her smile as sharp as her words. Delegate Trickvarks, I must thank you. Your defense of Earth was passionate, to say the least. Trickvarks regarded her with weary eyes. Do not mistake my argument for loyalty to your kind, Ambassador. I did not defend Earth for your sake. I defended it for the galaxies. Cross chuckled softly, her tone playful but edged with steel. Of course. But even so, you've done humanity a great service today. And for that we're grateful. Trickvarks said nothing more. He simply turned and walked away, his steps heavy with the weight of what he had done. As he exited the chamber, the murmurs of the delegates faded behind him, replaced by the quiet hum of his own thoughts. Humanity had been spared, for now. But as Trickvarks made his way to his quarters, he couldn't shake the lingering unease in his chest. Earth was still out there, chaotic and unpredictable, a force waiting to be unleashed. And he had no doubt that someday, whether provoked or not, humanity's full potential would be revealed. Whether the galaxy was ready for it or not was another matter entirely.